Hello world, Maybe here tonight. We just got our October issue of Coviola 2025. It's going to be an interesting one. I'm going to open up with an article concerning the Kamehameha Schools. Um, and this is to help better understand the legacy of Kamehameha Schools, uh, who the founder, our late monarchy, Bernice Pawahi Bishop, founded. So let's dive into this. The title is Education as the Hope of a Nation. The founding of Kamehameha Schools was never about laws, treaties, or politics. At just 11 years old, Keali'i Pauahi, or Ali'i, or Chief Pauahi, witnessed the most harrowing event her beloved Hawaiian kingdom would endure in her lifetime. British naval captain George Paulet intervened in a dubious land dispute between his country's council and the Hawaiian monarchy. He ultimately seized control of the sovereign Hawaiian nation through the threat of military force. For 5 long months, the Union Jack flew over Honolulu as Pauahi's uncle, King Kamehameha III, was forced to surrender his authority. Adding insult to injury, Paulet ordered Hawaiian Kingdom flags gathered and burned. Then came a reversal as dramatic as the loss. Rear Admiral Richard Thomas arrived with orders from Queen Victoria to restore the kingdom's independence. On July 31st, 1843, Pauahi watched her nation rise again. That day, later celebrated as La Ho'iho'i'eha, Restoration Day, became the first national holiday of the Hawaiian Kingdom. Even as a child, Pauahi felt a deep love and connection to her nation, the kingdom founded by her great-grandfather, whose name she would one day bestow upon her schools. She understood the magnitude of her family's responsibility to the nation and its people, as well as the challenges that lay ahead. Her uncle, the king, stood firm in his belief in education. The school he founded prepared her for a life of high responsibility in the Hawaiian kingdom. And in the day's ceremony, she witnessed the resilience of her lahui, or nation. From these seeds grew Pauahi's conviction that education would be the surest path forward for her people, a belief that would one day be written into her will as her final and greatest gift. Education at the core of her worldview. As a young king, Kauikeaouli famously declared, "O ku'u aupuni, he aupuni palapala. My kingdom shall be a kingdom of learning." He understood that the strength of the Hawaiian kingdom rested not only in its land and its rulers, but in the knowledge of its people. Acting on this conviction, he established the first public school system west of the Mississippi River, making education a responsibility of the government to provide for all rather than a private privilege for the few. In 1839, Kauikeaouli founded the Chief's Children's School in Honolulu to prepare the next generation of kings and queens to lead with wisdom in a rapidly changing world. There, Pauahi was educated side by side with her cousins and peers. Among them were the future kings and queens of Hawaii. For 10 years until she was 18, this boarding school was Pauahi's home, where she lived year-round in close company with those who would one day wear the crown. In those classrooms and dormitories, bonds were built, tightly secured, and the chiefly responsibility to the nation and its people, rooted in generations of cultural tradition, was instilled in each of them. While many of her classmates would ascend the throne, Pauahi twice turned aside the crown. Her vision was not to govern from the palace, but to serve in another way, by ensuring her people's future through education. It was in these formative years that she came to see her responsibility as a chiefess who would help prepare generations of native Hawaiians to thrive. Pauahi's 1850 marriage to American businessman and banker Charles Reed Bishop was controversial to some, but it proved enduring. Together they became a philanthropic force. She was very congenial, she was very empathetic, and I think that empathy and caring for the situation of others really became a part of her herself. Always caring about how other people are doing and how other people are feeling, said Manu, a Kamehameha Schools culture consultant. That's something in leadership you don't see a lot of today. She really put her people first. We talk about servant leadership, and it really is kind of a reflection of Pauahi herself. She was selfless. She put her people first. After her death, Charles honored his wife's will, her charge issued to her last will and testament, ensuring that her gift to her people would be realized. On October 31st, 1883, Pauahi signed her will bequeathing 275,500 acres of land inherited from numerous chiefly lines to establish schools for native Hawaiian children. 4 years later, the first Kamehameha School for boys was opened. Nearly 140 years later, Kamehameha Schools continued to carry on Pauahi's last will and testament with the same fidelity set by her husband and the first trustee. As foreigners renew their assaults on her will, it is important to remember Pauahi's will in the context of her time. She passed away nearly a decade before the overthrow of the Hawaiian kingdom and long before the United States began its occupation of Hawaii. She wrote her will as a chiefess of her nation. For Pauahi, it was never about the laws, treaties, or politics. It was about the uncle who stood for education as the hope of a nation. It was about the Hawaii and royal standards she sketched in her journal, binding her own name to her people's future. And it was about her chiefly responsibility, born of generations before her, to ensure that the Hawaii, the community, the nation would rise and sustain itself through learning. In her will, she transformed that responsibility into a gift of immeasurable love, one that continues to shape Hawaii nearly 140 years later. To honor her will is to honor Pauahi herself and the enduring vision she entrusted to her people. Aloha.